You want to know what makes me furious about WWE's booking philosophy? When they take their most dangerous rising star, a legitimate monster who's been destroying everyone in his path for months, and they sacrifice him on the altar of a returning part-timer's ego just to pop a crowd for one night. Bron Breakker has been unstoppable on Raw. He's been the most credible threat in the entire company. The guy who feels like he could main event WrestleMania, the future WWE champion who actually deserves the spot. And on January 2nd, 2026, WWE had Seth Rollins return after yet another absence and destroy Bron Breakker and the Vision like they were jobbers on main event. This isn't good booking, this is creative malpractice. This is WWE once again proving they care more about nostalgia pops than building the next generation of stars. And after I break down exactly what happened and why it's a disaster for everyone involved except Seth's ego, you're going to understand why this company will never learn from its mistakes. January 2nd, 2026 should have been Bron Breakker's coronation. He's been on an absolute tear through the Raw roster, demolishing legends, destroying rising stars, looking like an absolute beast in every single appearance. He's the son of Rick Steiner, the nephew of Scott Steiner. He's got the pedigree, the look, the intensity, and most importantly, the iron ring ability to be the next big thing. WWE has spent months building him up as this unstoppable force, and fans were genuinely buying into him as a legitimate main event talent. The Vision, the heel faction that's been running roughshod over Raw, had aligned with Bron Breakker in recent weeks. It made sense. Bron's a destroyer, the Vision wants to tear down the establishment. Together they're basically an army that nobody can stop. They'd been calling out legends, attacking veterans, and making the case that the old generation needs to step aside for the future. And you know what? Their argument was compelling. Quick question for you. Before Seth's return, did you believe Bron Breakker was being positioned for a main event push? Or did you suspect WWE would eventually feed him to a veteran? Be honest in the comments. Then Seth Rollins' music hit. The place erupted, of course it did. Seth's a star, he's beloved. He's the visionary, the architect, whatever nickname WWE's marketing team has decided on this week. He came out looking determined, talking about how he's watched the Vision destroy everything he loves about WWE, how Bron Breakker is wasting his potential by aligning with them, how it's time for someone to stand up and stop this madness. Noble sentiment, right? The veteran coming back to save his company from destruction. Except here's the problem. The way WWE booked what happened next destroyed months of careful character building in one segment. Seth challenged Bron Breakker to a match. Right there, that night, no build, no anticipation, just an immediate confrontation. Bron, being the confident monster he's been presented as, accepted immediately. Why wouldn't he? He's been destroying everyone. He's aligned with the Vision who can interfere if needed. He's bigger, younger, stronger than Seth. By all logic, Bron should have been confident. The match was set, and fans were genuinely excited because this felt like it could be a passing of the torch moment where Bron defeats the returning legend and establishes himself as the guy on Raw. That's not what happened. Not even close to what happened. And that's why I'm livid. The match itself started competitively enough. Bron used his power advantage. Seth used his experience and technical skill. Back and forth action that made both men look good. The crowd was hot, invested in the outcome, genuinely unsure who would win. This is exactly what you want in a marquee match between generations. And then the Vision got involved, because of course they did. Multiple members hit the ring to give Bron the numbers advantage, to guarantee their guy would win, to send Seth packing and prove that the new generation is superior. Here's where everything went catastrophically wrong. Instead of Bron and the Vision destroying Seth in a brutal beatdown that makes them look like the dominant force they've been built as, Seth fought off multiple members of the Vision by himself. Not struggling, not barely surviving, he was hitting moves, getting big reactions, looking strong against multiple opponents while Bron stood there like a background character in his own storyline. Let me ask you this. When was the last time WWE booked a returning legend to look vulnerable against younger talent in their first match back? Drop your answer in the comments because I genuinely can't remember. Then, in the most WWE moment possible, more legends and babyfaces from the locker room rushed out to even the odds. Suddenly this one-on-one match turned into a full-scale brawl with Seth's allies fighting the Vision while Seth focused on Bron. And in that chaos, Seth hit the stomp, his finish, and pinned Bron Breakker clean in the middle of the ring. The monster who's been destroying everyone for months just lost to a guy who's been sitting at home, in his first match back with minimal struggle. But WWE wasn't done burying Bron Breakker yet. After the match, Seth and his babyface allies proceeded to destroy the Vision in a post-match beatdown. We're talking multiple finishers, bodies laid out everywhere, Seth standing tall in the center of the ring while the crowd chanted his name. Bron Breakker, the guy who should be the most protected act on the entire roster, was just another body in the pile of defeated heels. He looked no more credible or dangerous than any random Vision member. Do you understand how catastrophic this is for Bron's character? He went from unstoppable monster to just another guy who lost to a returning legend in one segment. All that momentum, all that careful building, all those dominant performances, erased because WWE decided Seth Rollins needed a strong return at the expense of their future main eventer. Trivia time. Can you name the last genuinely young star that WWE protected when they faced a returning legend in their first match back? Comment if you can think of one. Let's talk about what this does to Bron Breakker's credibility moving forward. In professional wrestling, perception is everything. If fans perceive you as beatable, as just another guy, you've lost the aura that makes stars stars. Bron had that aura. He felt dangerous, he felt special. He felt like someone you absolutely did not want to face because he would end your career. Now, he's the guy who lost to Seth Rollins in his comeback match. He's the guy who got pinned clean. He's the guy who got destroyed in the post-match beatdown. Some people will argue, it's just one loss, he can bounce back. But that's not how WWE operates, and that's not how fan perception works. When you're being built as an unstoppable force and you lose that aura, you rarely get it back at the same level. Look at Rusev after his undefeated streak ended. Look at Braun Strowman after he started taking regular losses. Look at virtually every monster that WWE has built up and then sacrificed. The Vision as a faction also took massive damage from this segment. They've been positioned as this dangerous group that has the numbers advantage and uses it effectively. They've been the faction that legends struggle against, that causes chaos, that feels like a genuine threat to the established order. And Seth Rollins, by himself for most of the match, fought off multiple members and still won. How are we supposed to take them seriously after that? Here's a question that'll divide the audience. Should veterans ever go over rising stars in their return matches? Or should returns always be about building the future? Comment your philosophy on booking returns. What makes this even more frustrating is that there were so many better ways to book this. Want Seth to return and have a moment? Fine. Have him and Bron go to a time limit draw or double count out, establishing that Bron is so dangerous that even Seth can't put him away in one match. Want Seth to win? Have it be controversial, a distraction, a fluke roll-up, something that protects Bron while giving Seth his return victory. Want a big brawl? Have the Vision ultimately stand tall, establishing that even with reinforcements, the babyfaces are still outnumbered and need to find another way to combat this threat. Instead, WWE went with the laziest possible option. Returning legend beats rising star clean, looks strong against multiple opponents, destroys everyone in a post-match beatdown, stands tall to end the show. It's the same booking they've done 1,000 times, and it never helps build new stars. It just temporarily pops a crowd for one night and then leaves you with a damaged young talent who has to rebuild momentum from scratch. Seth Rollins doesn't need this win. He's already established. He's already a multiple-time world champion. He's already beloved by the audience. He's already going into the Hall of Fame someday. Taking a loss to Bron Breakker or even going to a draw wouldn't have hurt Seth's legacy one bit. But getting destroyed by Seth after months of being built as unstoppable absolutely hurts Bron's trajectory as a rising star. This is the fundamental problem with WWE's booking philosophy. They prioritize short-term reactions over long-term storytelling. They want that big pop when Seth's music hits. They want that feel-good moment when the babyfaces stand tall. They want that trending Twitter moment. But they don't think about what happens next week when Bron has to cut a promo after losing decisively, or what happens next month when fans don't buy him as a credible threat anymore because he couldn't beat a guy in his first match back. Another question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much damage did this segment do to Bron Breakker's long-term main event potential? Give me a number in the comments. The social media reaction has been predictably split. Casual fans and Seth Rollins loyalists loved the segment. They got to see their favorite return and destroy the heels. But hardcore fans, people who actually pay attention to long-term storytelling and character development, are furious. They see this for what it is: another example of WWE sacrificing the future for a short-term nostalgia pop. Wrestling Twitter has been brutal in its criticism. People are comparing this to the Nexus getting destroyed by Cena and the veterans at SummerSlam 2010. A decision that's widely regarded as one of the worst booking calls in WWE history because it killed the momentum of multiple rising stars in one night. People are pointing out that WWE does this constantly and then wonders why they struggle to create new main event stars. People are asking why Bron Breakker, who should be the future of the compan. Seth Rollins doesn't need this win. He's already established. He's already a multiple-time world champion. He's already beloved by the audience. He's already going into the Hall of Fame someday. Taking a loss to Bron Breakker or even going to a draw wouldn't have hurt Seth's legacy one bit. But getting destroyed by Seth after months of being built as unstoppable absolutely hurts Bron's trajectory as a rising star. This is the fundamental problem with WWE's booking philosophy. They prioritize short-term reactions over long-term storytelling. They want that big pop when Seth's music hits. They want that feel-good moment when the babyfaces stand tall. They want that trending Twitter moment. But they don't think about what happens next week when Bron has to cut a promo after losing decisively, or what happens next month when fans don't buy him as a credible threat anymore because he couldn't beat a guy in his first match back. Another question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much damage did this segment do to Bron Breakker's long-term main event potential? Give me a number in the comments. The social media reaction has been predictably split. Casual fans and Seth Rollins loyalists loved the segment. They got to see their favorite return and destroy the heels. But hardcore fans, people who actually pay attention to long-term storytelling and character development, are furious. They see this for what it is: another example of WWE sacrificing the future for a short-term nostalgia pop. Wrestling Twitter has been brutal in its criticism. People are comparing this to the Nexus getting destroyed by Cena and the veterans at SummerSlam 2010. A decision that's widely regarded as one of the worst booking calls in WWE history because it killed the momentum of multiple rising stars in one night. People are pointing out that WWE does this constantly and then wonders why they struggle to create new main event stars. People are asking why Bron Breakker, who should be the future of the compan. And you know what? They're right. Every criticism is valid. This was bad booking that helps nobody except Seth Rollins' ego and WWE's desperate need for moments that they can clip and share on social media. It doesn't help Bron Breakker. It doesn't help the vision. It doesn't help the long-term health of the Raw roster. It's empty calories, tastes good for one night, provides no nutritional value, leaves you feeling worse afterward. Let's talk about what should happen moving forward. Even though I have zero confidence WWE will actually do any of this. Bron Breakker needs to immediately bounce back with a string of dominant performances that reestablish his credibility. He needs to cut promos about how he underestimated Seth, about how he learned from the loss, about how it won't happen again. He needs to destroy some credible names to remind everyone why he was considered unstoppable in the first place. The Vision needs to regroup and respond to this loss with violence. They need to attack Seth and his allies when they least expect it. They need to make it clear that losing one battle doesn't mean they're losing the war. They need to be booked as dangerous, ruthless, and willing to do whatever it takes to achieve their goals. Otherwise, they're just another heel faction that talks tough but folds when actually challenged. Here's a question. If you were booking the follow-up to this segment, what would you do to rehabilitate Bron Breakker's character? Drop your fantasy booking in the comments. Seth Rollins needs to actually sell the difficulty of this victory. He shouldn't be cutting promos about how easy it was to defeat Bron and the Vision. He should be acknowledging that Bron is incredibly dangerous, that the Vision is still a threat, that this war is far from over. That way, when Bron eventually gets his revenge, it means something instead of just being another 50-50. The most frustrating part of all of this is that Bron Breakker has everything you could possibly want in a future main event star. WWE will move on. He's got the look. Jacked, intimidating, looks like a legitimate athlete. He's got the pedigree coming from the legendary Steiner family gives him built-in credibility. He's got the intensity. Watch any of his promos or matches and you can see he gets it. He understands how to portray intensity and aggression. And he's got the in-ring ability. He can work with big guys, small guys, technical wrestlers, brawlers, anyone. So why is WWE wasting him? Why are they treating him like just another body to be fed to returning legends? The answer is because WWE's creative leadership is stuck in a cycle where they don't trust young talent to carry the company. So they keep relying on established stars, which means young talent never gets the opportunity to become established stars, which perpetuates the cycle indefinitely. One more question before we wrap up. Do you think Bron Breakker can recover from this burial? Or has WWE permanently damaged his ceiling? Be brutally honest in the comments. Compare WWE's handling of Bron Breakker to how other promotions build their young stars. In companies that actually invest in the future, young monsters get protected. They rack up decisive victories. When they eventually take a loss, it's after months or years of dominance. It's in a huge match with massive stakes, and it's done in a way that doesn't diminish their aura. It's treated as a big deal that this unstoppable force was finally stopped, not as just another match on just another episode of TV. WWE used to understand this. They protected Brock Lesnar during his initial run. Modern WWE has abandoned Batista when Evolution was of chasing trending moments. They protected Bobby Lashley during his first stint. They care more about Seth Rollins' return. They understood that monsters trending on Twitter for 3 hours that you can't have your unstoppable force is still a credible main event shows up for a quick payday. That's short-sighted. It's creatively bankrupt, and it's killing the long-term health of the roster. Seth Rollins returning and destroying Bron Breakker and the Vision on the January 2nd, 2026 episode of Raw isn't a triumphant return story. It's a burial. It's WWE once again choosing nostalgia over the future, choosing the safe pop over the smart booking, choosing to make one person look strong at the expense of everyone else looking weak. Bron Breakker deserved better. The Vision deserved better. And honestly, the fans deserved better than watching months of character building get flushed down the toilet for one forgettable segment. The scary part? This will probably keep happening. Every time a legend returns, every time a part-timer shows up, every time WWE needs a moment, they'll sacrifice young talent to get it. And then they'll sit in creative meetings wondering why they can't create new stars, why the current roster doesn't feel as important as the legends, why fans aren't as invested in the product as they used to be. The answer is staring them in the face. Stop burying your young talent for short-term pops. Make sure you're subscribed to SUPLEX Ring Saga because we're going to keep covering this disaster and holding WWE accountable for their terrible booking decisions. Smash that like button if you're as frustrated as I am about what they did to Bron Breakker. And get in those comments. I want to hear from Seth fans, Bron fans,